Hi, hello everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining the Startup Club Health Tech Investment Conference. I'm Batuan and I'm the host today. Before we start, I'd like to say a few words about the Startup Club. So we are a global entrepreneur community. We organize industry-specific pitch night investment conferences to connect entrepreneurs with investors. Since 2019, we successfully organized more than 100 events and dozens of companies got funded through these events. And today you will meet 8 amazing companies. Let me just share my screen so that you can see the presenters. We have PIPRA, Vigor Medical, Medical, HealthHop, Mental Feature, Remedly, Precision Cardiovascular, and Auctus Surgical. They all have different focus areas, such as risk assessment tool to prevent delirium, devices for treatment of chest trauma, hip mobility sensor, medical tourism, mental health, patient management software, heart failure, and treatment of scoliosis. Each company will do 5-minute pitch that will be followed by 7 minutes Q&A and discussion session. The event will take approximately 2 hours, so we are planning to finish just before 8 p.m. European time or 2 p.m. Eastern time. And as you can see, we have 5 investors, advisors from reputable investment firm, from VU Venture Partners, Agility Ventures, Eco Ventures, Debut Farm Innovation Fund, and we partners. I will ask the judges to introduce themselves. So let's start with Arne Kaltofen from VU Partners. Arne, could you please introduce yourself? But I think right now you are not able to unmute yourself. Let me just check it. Yes, now you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Okay, now it's working.
Yeah.
So yes, hello. I'm Arne from VR Partners. So we are a Swiss venture capital fund. We are around for more than 20 years now, investing in healthcare and also in tech companies, with a strong focus on Switzerland and Europe, but also to some extent to the US. And yeah, so we've 250 million under management and yeah, a long traction and history in the market. Glad to be here.
Thanks so much, Arne. Pleasure to have you with us today. Estia, could you please introduce yourself as well?
Yes, hi, I'm Estia from Eco Ventures. So we're a UK-based impact fund doing health as well as climate. Within health, we're interested in broadly everything. So to describe the two extremes, at one end, we're looking at consumer healthcare, how do we move towards a preventative healthcare system? And then at the other extreme, still looking at diagnostics and treatment pathways. Our stage of investment ranges anything from pre-seed to Series A, and that buckles down into tickets of about £1 million or so. And then I joined the fund about 1.5 years ago, was previously looking at consumer internet, so not necessarily health, in the public markets for 4 years before moving over. So thank you for organizing and really looking forward to hearing more from startups.
Great, thanks so much for the introduction, Estia. Niels?
Hi, Niels here from Agility Ventures. We are a newly launched venture fund based out of Italy, but with a global team and a perspective on Europe and the US. We have 300 million under management, and we invest in biotech and health tech. Series A, Series B, 3 to 5 million is our sweet spot. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks so much, Niels. And Vincent?
Hello, everyone. So I work as an investment principal at Debut Farm Innovation Fund. Debut Farm Innovation Fund is a corporate venture capital arm of Debut Farm, which is a pharma company based out of Switzerland. And we invest in seed and Series A with ticket size ranging from 100K to 5 million in digital health and specifically in all patient journey side of things. The second thing is digital transformation of pharma R&D and all clinical trial technologies. I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to seeing the startups.
Thanks so much, Vincent. And actually, we have one more advisory board members, which is Ada Dilder from VU Venture Partners. Ada is not here just yet, but he will join soon, within 5 minutes. But we can just get started. Meanwhile, investors in the audience can interact with the presenters by using chat or networking. So yeah, let's get started with the first speech. The first company is PIPRA. John Klepper, CEO and founder of the company, will present the opportunity. John, hi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Now you have 5 minutes to pitch. There will be then 7 minutes Q&A session. You can now share your screen and start the presentation.
The host needs to allow me to present.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I do apologize for any background noise. I'm at Slush. I found a reasonably quiet space. I will do my best.
Perfect, yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. Good. So my name is John Klepper, CEO and co-founder of PIPRA. And this is my mother. A few years ago, she had a routine surgery and woke up a different person. For several days, she saw monsters coming out of the walls and thought the staff were trying to kill her. She was terrified, suffering from postoperative delirium. Like my mother, here is an account from another patient who suffered. Luckily, they survived, but they have a PTSD from the experience. It's the most common post-surgical complication, affecting more than 1 in every 4 patients, or almost 1 in every 4 patients over 60, 6-fold increase in nursing home admissions, 38% continue with long-term cognitive decline, typically dementia. For hospitals, it's an average cost of 7.5 million euros per hospital per year, mainly through a dramatic increase in length of stay. To give you some perspective, delirium is 60% more expensive to healthcare than diabetes. The good news is it's preventable. The problem is preventive measures, they take a bit too much time and there's not enough resources to roll out to every single patient. So our solution was to build an AI-based risk assessment software that allows for targeted prevention on high-risk patients like my mom, dramatically reducing costs and improving outcomes. Our CE-certified software is designed to fit into the clinical pathway with a simple-to-use interface that just runs in the background once integrated through a simple API, extracting routinely collected data from the electronic health record. Driving this algorithm is the largest and richest database in the world on POD. This is our main IP. We'll have our FDA soon, and we recently published in Age and Aging in JAMA. Together with the software, we support the hospital with strategies and resources to effectively manage the prevention of delirium, as well as data analytics, so administration can see what's actually happening in real time. And the value that we provide is significant, reducing PTSD, falls, infections, POD, of course, while also making the hospital more money. So let's take a quick look at a recent integration where we screened 862 patients, 126 of them had delirium. Those patients stayed twice as long in hospital. They had a 10-fold increase in mortality, 4-fold increase in hours in ICU, and 4-fold increase in nursing hours on the ward. We were able to save them in just 2 months, almost a full day in length of stay, and 450,000 euros in a month, 5 million in a year, while also making them a little bit of money in additional reimbursement. So while they're paying us 25 euros per patient, they're making more money than they're paying us. The market is huge. It's a 13 billion euro market just in post-op delirium. And currently, the only real competitor is business as usual, which is no software. It's a subjective guess by the clinician. We're currently live in Switzerland, Europe, and United States. We have a very healthy funnel, which is why we're raising capital right now to be able to take on the demand. We've won several innovation awards, including one today, actually. And most importantly, we have an incredible team. PIPRA was founded by Nayeli, an anesthesiologist with 14 years of clinical practice, Ben, a PhD graduate from Oxford in pathology who worked at Roche and Pfizer, and myself, a serial entrepreneur with one successful exit so far. We're accompanied by a multidisciplinary, brilliant team, as well as an advisory board with 7 key opinion leaders from around the world. These are just a few of our advisors. In the United States alone, from Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Cornell, and Stanford. And this is just the beginning for us. We're adding a home-based solution to be able to establish baseline and frailty, and then an automated delirium diagnostic after surgery. This is the ask. We're raising 3.2 million. We're half of the round is already committed, mostly from existing investors. And you can see some of our international investors from our seed round here, as well as some examples of recent exits. Our mission at PIPRA is to ensure that people like my mother and our loved ones leave the hospital better than when they arrived, not worse. We'll hope you join us on this important journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John. Great presentation. Arndt, would you like to start? Do you have any question, or what do you think about it?
Yeah, glad to do so. So thank you, John, for the presentation. I hope many questions, but I'm focusing on the most relevant. So one question I have is you're mentioning you have the richest the database of the world. So what is the base of this database? So where does it come from, and do you have rights on those data? And second, maybe to this is you're mentioning the health economics outcome. So is this really proven that preventive measures can shorten the timeline after the surgery? And what are these preventive measures? So what does it mean for the clinical processes for the hospital and so on? I have 2 questions.
Hear me okay? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Them that have been proven through meta-analyses conducted by the Cochrane. There's tons of studies that show that it can be prevented up to 43%. That's well established in the industry. Things like prehabilitation and adaptation of daily medication. Some medicines are deliriogenic. Careful monitoring of depth of anesthesia during surgery, and then a multi-component non-pharmacological interventions post-op done by nurses that have been shown to be very effective in reducing delirium. To answer some of your other questions, so we were able to show an 11% reduction in incidence of delirium. This was just the beginning. We can push this much further. And we also were able to show a significant increase in compliance on screening. And this was, again, just in a 2-month period. So the ROI, the economic numbers that I showed you, saving 450,000 euros, is examples of data from a hospital, directly how it affected length of stay, and from their departments of finance departments, what that translates to, which they validated, what that translates to into cost savings. And then where do we get the data? So we did an individual participant data meta-analyses together with academia and the Cochrane. This was a global effort that took 2.5 years, where we collected data from 20 studies around the world. These were gold standard studies. And we got patient-level, high-grade, high-quality data from the PIs on all of these studies, wanting to participate and be named in our meta-analyses. So this is a rare thing. It would have cost us 100 million euros to collect this data and probably taken 10 to 15 years. And this is protected by strong contracts. So yes, we do have rights to all this data.
Thanks so much, John. Estia, any question or any comment?
Yeah, thank you, John, for the presentation. Really clear. Zooming out a little bit into a higher level question, would love to hear your thought process or thesis around going pretty verticalized on the pre-op process. So what I mean by that is if you think about like pre-op screening. I guess there's lots of things that you're trying to be mindful of, like delirium is one of those. Over time, do you think that the buyer will want to have like all their pre-op screening on one software and you're going to build that out? Or do you think there's enough space to really run at the delirium segment as that's the most costly? Would love to, understand that vertical versus horizontal approach. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And we've definitely given that a lot of thought. So delirium is 60% more expensive to healthcare than diabetes. That comes from the United States. That's it's in a study that I'm happy to share afterwards. This is a very, very big problem that's totally unaddressed. So we could stay in delirium, and it's a large enough market to do very well in. We also run in the background. So it's not a separate tool, let's say, as far as the clinician is aware. It just runs in the background. And as they enter information into their electronic health record, standard routine pre-anesthesia consult type of thing, where our software is extracting the data and then just popping up with a score that gets written into the patient record. So it's not that we're asking them to use another solution type of thing. We purposefully designed this to fit into the clinical pathway. Before we built this, we conducted 300 interviews with clinicians to understand if it was a need, how we would address that, what kind of tool we would build. And then we've done 4 pilots to test whether it really works in clinical practice.
Thank you, Estia.
But beyond that, yes, we absolutely could scale this into other neurocognitive diseases. In particular, we want to stay in the brain-related areas, but we could extend that also beyond that in different types of post-op complications.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Vincent, any question?
Yeah, so thanks a lot, John, for this presentation. Really nice videos within the pitch. So that's great. You were talking about FDA certification that you're gonna receive soon. Can you maybe expand a bit on that and give us a timeline here?
For sure.
And maybe another point was about the revenue for hospitals. Basically, you said that you could improve revenues through better coding. To me, it's a bit unclear here. So if you can also give us more details around that, it would be great. Thank you.
And John,
Sure.
you have about a minute to answer this, just to let you know.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Vincent. Good questions. FDA, we're submitting a 513G FDA exemption as a first step, which will allow us to sell in the United States. We're currently discussing, actually an hour and a half ago as well, and Johns Hopkins, Harvard, and Stanford have agreed to do a multi-site study with us. While Stanford is also using our tool in clinical practice right now. So we wanted them to be able to start paying. So that's why the 513G, that should take 3 months. And then we're going to do a full FDA 510K application. And the revenue side. So this isn't a big revenue generating exercise. Under DRG systems, the hospital can make a little bit of extra money on some patients where they have certain complications and they add up and then they spill over into the next bracket where they would make more revenues. What happens, the reason why is because 70% of cases are currently not diagnosed. And so we can
actually I have to interrupt you there.
And then the coding on the back of that means more reimbursement.
Yeah, thanks so much for the great answer, John, and all the advisors. Feel free to reach out to John to discuss this privately. You can see his contact there. Thanks so much, John, for the presentation.
Thank you very much. And sorry again for the background noise.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next company is Vigor Medical Technologies. Irina, CEO of the company, will present the opportunity. Irina, you have 5 minutes to present. You can share your screen and start your presentation now.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay, so my name is Irina Kovnovsky, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Vigor Medical. Our company develops a life-saving technology for effective treatment of chest trauma and post-operative drainage.
Chest trauma is a life-threatening condition causing difficulty in breathing, the shifting of organs within the thorax, and resulting in lung and heart collapse. Patients with such trauma need to be treated effectively within an hour to prevent death. This is a cause of 20% of all arm injuries and the #1 cause of accidental death. Available solutions such as chest seals and decompression needles do not treat this condition effectively.
There are over 20 million of chest traumas around the world annually, and about 4 million of them are treated by chest tubes. Despite being the golden standard for such a treatment, there are many complications associated with chest tube insertion. It can be done only by doctor by suturing the chest tube to the skin, and there are up to 40% complications in this procedure in the hospital and pre-hospital, which in many cases requires re-intervention, costing €2,500 to the hospital.
The sealant device is a rapid and simple solution to the problems associated with insertion. Sealant can be used to treat any injury. It is a self-fixating device to the chest wall, hermetically seals the wound, and allows effective drainage through standard chest tubes and accessories. It may be used in the field by paramedics and army medics. Sealant is atraumatic and automatically adjustable to any anatomical variation or any injury pattern.
So here you can actually see the device also in my hand. This is the real size. We are now transferring this product from design that was completed to mass production, which will be completed early next year. We have proven the feasibility of this device in both laboratory and on animals, and it is IP protected in both United States and in Europe. So we save a lot of money to the hospitals due to decrease of repeated procedures, and also the possibility by less experienced personnel. For paramedics and army medics, we are truly an enabling technology, and for the patients, we save their lives. It's as simple as that on the field. So next year, our two main goals are to submit the FDA approval through 510K, which does not require clinical trials, and to conduct a 50 patients clinical trial towards the CE approval, and we plan to start selling the device in early 2025. We will sell it through indirect sales through distributors with approximately 50% margin. And for the emergency kit, we plan to establish joint ventures with the manufacturers and to receive the money by royalties model. There are 4 main market segments which we approach with this specific product, including the hospitals, any type of civilian emergency medical services, the military, and the disaster management and preparedness. The market size for this specific product for chosen indications is $1.5 billion, and we plan to capture approximately 5 to 10% of it within 5 years of marketing. We also are starting working on development of this product for additional indications and other products, mainly in emergency medical services. We plan to become operationally profitable in 2027. We are currently looking for approximately $2 million round, which will complete the funding already received from the European Innovation Council through the grant. We are also entitled to 7.2 million euros additional equity funding in 2025. The company was established and being managed by a very experienced team that has huge experience in bringing innovative medical devices from concept stage to commercialization. And we are working with leading advisors in the medical field from all the various departments and specialties. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Irina. Niels, let's start with you this time, if you prefer.
Thanks, Irina, for the presentation. I've actually had the pleasure to try this out a few years ago, so very, very great to see you again. My question would be around the go-to-market and the regulatory approval specifically. It seems like it is a quite invasive procedure, an invasive device. So I was a little surprised to hear that it can go to market under 510K without any clinical evidence, clinical studies being done in the US. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on your regulatory strategy.
Sure. Our intended use for this device is basically thoracic or abdominal drainage. For this, we have defined and found several predicate devices with exactly the same intended use that have very similar features in them that went through 510K without clinicals. We're working with 3 leading regulatory consultants, one actually in-house, that handles the 510K and CE process, and 2 external ones, one in Israel and one in the United States, and all of them confirmed this strategy. So I'm pretty sure this is what will happen. For the CE, we do need 30 to 50 patients trial, which will with 1 week of follow-up approximately to submit it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Niels. Irina. Vincent, any question or comment?
Yeah, maybe just on to follow up on Niels' question, because you said that you found very similar predicates. Then my next question would be, so what? Even though you showed it slightly, but if you can highlight the key differentiators here, it would be also useful.
Sure. So the predicates basically are trocars used sometimes for the laparoscopic surgeries and sometimes for other indications. So the similarity is that our device can also perforate the skin and enter the thoracic or abdominal cavity, and we can insert tools or tubes through the device, which is in terms of the usage. But the different features are that, first of all, this device is completely atraumatic. There is a special mechanism that as soon as this edge of the trocar doesn't feel the pressure of the tissue, it automatically jumps inside the handle. So this is one. Secondly, this is a very special type of an iris which closes hermetically the shaft through which it's inserted. Thirdly, it can accommodate any size of the tube, which is uncommon to current devices. So, and then it also holds it hermetically. And additional different feature is the ability of the device to adjust automatically to the thickness of the skin. So regardless of the size of the patient or the anatomy of the patient, we can use only one size of the device to treat any adult. And we went through the patenting process actually without any remarks from the US Patent Office through the fast track. So they confirmed the actual patent differences of this technology.
Yeah, thank you. Estia, do you have any question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Irina, for that presentation. Really helpful. I'm also going to kind of do a follow-up on one of Niels's questions, but would love to understand how you're thinking about the distributor partnerships in your go-to-market. Like, how are you sequencing that decision? How are you prioritizing the ones you want to work with? Would love to hear your thinking around that piece, please. Thank you.
Sure. So we want to manufacture the product by ourselves and sell it through distributors. Our current manufacturing price is around $15, and we want to leave about 50% margin to the distributor. So for the emergency, we want to establish strategic partnerships with manufacturers of the shelf equipment, which is currently used for treatment of chest trauma, such as chest seals or things that you can clean the wound with, or any other equipment, basically, and to have them manufacture the emergency kit, and we will sell them the devices, which they will sell through their existing distribution channels, and we'll add the emergency kit that they will manufacture and assemble, and we will receive some royalties for the sales of the emergency kit as well. We have already contacted actually several of them, and mainly in the United States and one in Israel, and there is a certain interest as soon as we are more advanced with the regulatory process.
Yeah, thanks so much. Arns, do you have anything to add?
Very quick question. So is there one size fits all, or does it need different sizes for different
Yes.
injuries? And yeah.
So we worked a lot on this feature, and currently it's one size fits all. It accommodates 28 French tube. The tube can be a chest tube or any tool, for example, like an endoscope when the patient reaches the hospital to see where it's bleeding from. And in the future, we will have additional 2 devices, one for children of smaller size and a little bit more elastic, and one for really obese patients. But currently, we have done a retrospective clinical trial to measure the CT scans of the patients with average sizes of wall thickness, and we reached the conclusion that this device can treat any adult for approximately up to 120 kilograms of weight. All the results actually of animal and this trial that I mentioned were published in peer-reviewed journals.
Thanks so much, Irina, for the great answer. Thank you, all advisor, for the contribution. Time is up right now. Thank you, Irina. Feel free to reach out to Irina to discuss this more.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And the next company is Vigor Medical. Patrick, co-founder and CEO of the company, will do the presentation. Patrick, feel free to share your screen and start the presentation.
Thank you, Botwan. You need to let me share my screen.
Okay, just a second. Irina, could you please stop sharing? Or I guess I can do it as well, but let me see. Okay, great. Now we can share, Patrick.
Okay. Perfect. Hi, I'm Patrick. I'm a co-founder and COO of BIOS. And what I want to talk to you about is restoring life after hip fracture. With BIOS, we're striving to transform hip fracture from a life-threatening event to a manageable episode. Now, why am I saying life-threatening? There's about 1.7 million hip fractures a year right now, and this number is supposed to go up to about 6.6 in the next 20 years. And hip fracture is a significant event. Mobility, in essence, goes to 0 when somebody fractures their hip. And in the postoperative care, you're in essence looking to get them back onto the dotted line that you're seeing, so onto some kind of mobility that we would have taken at the time. Problem is, 20% or 25% of all hip fracture patients, independent of the age, die within a year. And an additional 15% of all patients have to be submitted to nursing homes and cannot go back home and go back to their regular life. There is something that can be done, and that is in essence around early and effective mobilization on a per patient basis. And that's where BIOS comes in. Our solution to that is an implantable sensor that is compatible to existing hip nails that are being implanted today. No additional surgery is needed. The sensor delivers data, continuous mobility data on the patient's mobilization. And as it's implanted, it has 100% wearing compliance. Based on that data that's being delivered through the smartphone to a cloud hub, both the physician as well as the patient has access to so-called digital mobility outcomes that allow the physician, the geriatrician, to do a post-operative personalized treatment decision or take a treatment decision. If you look at the graph below, in essence, the graph of mobility looks like the red one. You see it's in the yellow area, so it's not really bad, but it's also not good. And based on a treatment decision, you can then, or based on the data, you can take a treatment decision to say, okay, how do I push him up into the green area so that they regain life status as before? Looking at revenue streams a little bit in market, we currently have a monopoly market. So the hip beacon is the only hip mobility sensor worldwide. TAM is about 2 billion, and we're looking for phase 1. Our SOM, which we're looking to introduce in the USA first, is about 100 million. Revenue generation is via existing diagnosis-related groups and remote patient monitoring reimbursement. So in sum, if you look at revenue as a total, it's about 1,100 per device, divided up into 800 and 330 for the reimbursement of the remote patient monitoring codes. This includes already giving a part of that to surgeons to motivate them to include it. Cost of goods, somewhere below 350, which gives us a gross margin of about 70%. Why are we going to have success with this? We have a patent-protected platform, so it's not just for a hip beacon, but think also spine, think knee. The sensor itself is patented, and the technology is protected. We've done this before, so we've developed implantable implants or implantable sensors before in the past that are being implanted today. We have a clear regulatory strategy, 510(k) without clinical trials, based on a predicate device. And leaving you with, we're currently a very small, lean team. Marcus, who has 20 years of implant development experience. Myself, a serial entrepreneur who I've launched medtech businesses, health, nutrition, and data services business. And Victor, who has 10 years of development experience in medtech software. What we want to do is transform hip fracture from a life-threatening event to a manageable episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for the presentation. By the way, Ada just joined. Ada, why don't you introduce yourself first before we get into this Q&A session?
Yeah, I apologize for the little tardiness on my end. I was in a meeting prior, but my name is Ada. I am a venture associate with VU Venture Partners based in San Francisco. I am in the healthcare department for the fund, so I mainly focus in biotech, medtech, and anything really relevant to healthcare. We are an early stage seed fund. Typical check size is around 200,000 to 1 million. We typically do not lead, but we can in some instances. And we do have follow-on rounds as well of $1 million checks.
Great, thank you, Ada. By the way, did you get a chance to listen to the presentation, or do you have any comment, question, or maybe?
I kind of came in a little bit. I do understand, though I had a good understanding of the pitch deck, but I have no questions right now.
Okay, thanks so much, Ada. Okay, then, Astia, would you like to start? Do you have any question or comment?
For sure. Thank you, Patrick, for the presentation. Two from me, if that's okay. Firstly, I might have misunderstood the model, but how do you actually determine the benchmarking for what is like good or bad hip mobility? Is that based on like population data, or is that individualized? And if so, how do you do that? And then the second one is, this is my knowledge of like lack of knowledge of the US payer system, but when you're looking at those reimbursement codes, is the preventative cost saving captured within that, or are you like tapping into a different type of budget? So yeah, those are my two. Thank you.
Okay.
So hello, I'm Marcus. I'm the CEO of BIOS, and maybe I can take the first question of you, Estia. These mobility outcomes are based on a huge clinical project which is going on at the moment in Europe, which is called Mobilized. That's a consortium, and they included more than 1,000 patients, hip fracture patients. And the goal of that consortium is to do exactly that, to figure out what are the relevant mobility outcomes and what are the benchmarks where you have to react to it. This European project runs out this or next spring, And we are in close contact with them, and we intend to include exactly what they figure out in their project into our device to do something meaningful that allows really clinical decision making here.
Super, thank you.
Second question was about preventive versus treatment, right? So at the moment, we are not talking about preventive healthcare here. So preventive healthcare could come in when we use that data that this sensor system delivers, for example, for fall prevention. That's a huge topic that these people, the elderly people, where we know that 20% of them will refracture and will break the other hip as well. We could also prevent the second hip fracture. That is a topic for the future. Could be done with the data, requires further validation, but that's not our primary target at the moment, because we believe we have to focus on one thing first. We have to push this through to the market and solve one problem, and prevention would then be the second phase.
Super clear. Thank you both.
Thank you. Arnd, any question or comment from you?
Yeah, what was not totally clear to me is the reimbursement and the incentive for the surgeon to do this. So you're saying it's under the DRG. So is this an additional code the surgeon can then get reimbursed on top of the regular surgery? So else you have the problem that the surgeon usually is not really interested in the outcome in the long run, so economically at least. So it's the patient will be released, and then someone else has the burden with the complications. So how does it work, this business model?
Patrick, shall I take that, or do you?
I think so.
The reason why we go to the US is exactly these remote patient monitoring codes. They are pretty new, and they are only available in the US. So it's a recurring revenue. So every month that you look at data, you can reimburse for the monitoring, and that is pretty exciting for us, because that allows the physician or whoever takes over the postoperative care to earn actually additional money to the reimbursement that he or she anyway gets from the operation. We target finally to bring the costs of the system into exactly that region where the whole system is completely reimbursable by remote monitoring codes. That's economy of scale and will then happen in the future. I don't know if this answers your question.
But for the device, for the sensor device you're adding to the implant, is there an additional code just for the procedure?
No, there's no additional code. So the DRG would be covered within the, or the device will be covered within the existing DRG. But on top of that, you could reclaim these remote patient monitoring codes, which you cannot do with a standard implant at the moment. So there's about, if you calculate it, $990 US on top for 1 year of remote monitoring, which you can claim and which is otherwise not possible to claim back.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Arnd. Vincent, do you have any question?
Yeah, I've got a few questions, but first maybe a trivial question. Are you raising? And if yes, how much? Maybe second question, I saw in one of your slides, so the remote patient monitoring goes from 6 to 12 months. What's happening to the sensor in the body after 12 months? Yeah, can you elaborate a bit on that?
And you have a minute to answer this, by the way.
Okay. Yes, we are raising. We're looking for $500,000 US for the next phase. And in terms of what happens to the sensor is the 6 to 12 months are determined by the battery life of the sensor. After that, the battery is dead and the sensor can stay. It's hermetically sealed, has gone through a medical device process development, and can just stay without a problem. It doesn't bother, or it could be taken out, but usually it can just stay inside.
So we recommend to leave it in for these older people, and we are using pacemaker grade technologies which can stay inside the body for decades. So we have already one sensor system in the patients at the moment, which works perfectly fine using similar technologies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for all the answers. Great presentation. Thank you, Patrick and Marcus. All right. The next company is HealthHop. Shireen, CEO of the company, will do the presentation. Could you please unshare? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. So yeah, we're going to actually just switch gears completely to a different side of the healthcare industry. So a little less technical, but nevertheless, it's equally important. So I'm really happy to introduce you guys to HealthHop. So it is a all-in-one medical tourism website application. So think of, you need to go overseas, you want to do your procedure, you want to do your logistics in terms of your hotel, your transportation, you need help in terms of translation services, and even want to do some sightseeing. You can do all of that within one central application, HealthHop. So why do people go overseas in order to do their procedures? So there's a couple of reasons. The most obvious is that it's more cost effective. Sometimes you have to have a procedure and you need to do it sooner rather than later. And in your own home country, you're not able to find the care in that specific time frame. And then you're looking at specific doctors or specialties. And so going overseas and getting the really specialized care that you need, a lot of those are the main reasons people go overseas. So there are a couple of problems with the medical tourism industry currently. Number one is there's a really not a mitigation of the risk. So you can go overseas and you can basically unfortunately, go to any one of these unlicensed clinics, and then you can come back worse than you actually went there for. There's communication issues. You'll go in there and let's say that you speak, Italian or Spanish or French, and you want to basically go to these countries and get your care. A lot of times there's those language barriers. And basically, safe areas, really recognized, internationally recognized doctors, that sort of thing. So the solution is really the product, and it's the MVP. We're in the MVP stage right now. I've done the front end development currently. I'm working on the back end, and I'll be happy to show you this as we do our Q&A. But basically, we're in the process of launching this maybe late January, early February. So really, moving on track with this. But really, we want to only work with the licensed clinics in every area. We want to make it very easy and user intuitive for people to book their procedures. So if there's time, I'll actually play one of these videos that shows the growing trend in terms of medical tourism, and especially here in Turkey. So I actually moved myself over to Turkey to work on this currently. And the idea is that I'm going to start here, and then we'll move on to different countries such as Brazil and Mexico, Dominican Republic, and some of these other countries that are very well known for medical tourism. For brevity, I'm kind of just going through this pretty quickly, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail in the Q&A. Let's talk about our competition. So there are a couple of sites out there that do this. However, they work with anybody and everybody. So what's interesting is if you'll go to a website with like whatclinic.com, BookieMed, Health Tourism, you can actually register as a medical provider and not even have a clinic. And the problem with these sites is that they do not check their licenses. You can be a third-party agent. And in fact, 90% of the people or the clinics that are listed on these websites are actually third-party agents. They're freelancers that are getting these leads and then connecting people to these medical clinics. And the reason they do this is because it is an extremely profitable industry, and they get a very high commission in terms of connecting the patient and the medical provider themselves. But as you can see, even with our competitors, the least amount of annual recurring revenue here is about 5 million in annual recurring revenue. But the bigger sites like What Clinic, you'll have 30 million, Real Self, that sort of thing, but they're not even user intuitive sites. I really implore you to go to these sites, and they're a little bit messy, a little bit clunky, but even despite that, they make so much in terms of annual revenue. Now let's talk about the total addressable market. Currently, we're almost about 100 billion. And in 5 years, it's projected to be $337 billion industry worldwide. I did put some figures here specifically for Turkey alone as we're launching this MVP. But even these numbers are really underreported, just because there are not a lot of reports out there. But it's about an $8 billion industry here in Turkey. And if we're talking about our own total addressable market, as you can see, there's a sizable market here and market share to be captured. For the business models, we have 4 main revenue sources. We'll start on phase 1, which is just going to be the percentage or commission packages. And then we're talking about CRM integrations, doing medical provider marketing packages, and then think travel sites like booking.com and Expedia and that sort of thing. Just really quickly about the founders, myself, I've been working in marketing and demand gen and as a growth marketer for the past 14 plus years in Silicon Valley. And really just have been very focused on the B2B and B2C side. So I have both in my background. And then my angel investor, or my partner, is actually he's actually very well known here in Turkey. His name is Dr. Bülent, and he was named as one of the top 50 plastic surgeons in the world in 2014. He has his own TLC show here in Turkey that has to do with health, obviously. He has a couple of clinics worldwide for aesthetic surgeries, and he was one of the founders in medical tourism in Turkey in 1999.
Thank you, Shireen. Great presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we are already time is up already.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, let's start with the Q&A session. Niels, what do you think about it? Do you have any question or comment?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. So I've spoken with not the companies on your slide, but companies in the space before. And I would imagine, as it is such a fragmented and busy competitive space, the customer acquisition would be a huge challenge, or at least very costly. And maybe 2 questions. How do you see that? And how do you plan to differentiate yourself in the eyes of the customer from the competition? And maybe also, where do you believe you find your customers?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So really, there is no brand recognition right now when it comes to medical tourism. So if you're looking to book your procedure right now, unless you're actually doing a Google search, you're not going to come across these sites for our competition unless you actually come across something that, because you're looking for, hair transplant surgery or whatever, right? So you want to have that brand recognition, and you want to have that, basically anybody who thinks health tourism, they think HealthHop, because we are different in the sense that we fully vet our providers. We're only working with the fully licensed providers, internationally recognized institutions, and we're actually looking to that they're in safe areas as well too, overseas. And so basically the process from beginning to end is a safe process. Now, in terms of user acquisition, it's actually not as hard as you think. So ultimately, the reason why people are doing this is because everybody makes money off of this. So it's just a matter of putting some ads on Meta or Google, but really the people who succeed the most are the ones that focus on the SEO, because you bring down that cost per acquisition. So these are actually projections based off of my conversations with medical providers, and I've talked to a ton of them. I've always asked them, what is your CAC? What is your customer acquisition cost? And it'll tell you it's anywhere between $100 and $400 US dollars. And that could be anywhere from any region. So you can have Bosnia or the US. The US market is a little bit more expensive than, say Azerbaijan, for instance. So it really depends on where you're targeting in that user acquisition. So again, it's going to be 3 primary avenues. It's going to be those online ad campaigns through Google and Meta. You're going to have the brand recognition through SEO, as well as influencer marketing campaigns. And really, it's going to be through partnerships as well. So that's really the ultimate, growth goal.
Thank you.
Sharon, Niels. Ada, do you have any question?
Yeah, one question on my end. How do you really discern yourself from the current major players when it comes to user experience? So how is it going to be a major difference?
Yeah.
Not regarding the amount of time maybe spent, but how is value disrupted really on all ends of the party?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I can probably even show you some of the sites here. So I have them up. So you'll have, a site like What Clinic, healthtourism.co. If you actually, I implore you to do this yourself. Act like you're a patient. Go into these sites and actually request a quote or information from these medical providers. I will tell you about 90% of them won't get back to you, or you're working with a third-party agent. I actually went through this myself. The first time I came to Turkey was actually for a medical procedure, and I didn't know that I was working with a third-party agent until I got here. So I was talking to somebody in English, but the only person who knew English when I got here was the doctor themselves that were actually going to do the procedure. So it was a very scary, experience to go through, knowing that you're going to, do a major procedure and no one speaks your language. And so the experience from beginning to end was a little shaky and not really trustworthy. So that really kind of piqued my interest. If you also just kind of, come to Turkey for anything, you'll see, in the airport, you'll have a dozen people, in front of you in line that have just done their procedures and that sort of thing. But really the differentiator is that we want to make sure that we're focused on the trust. We have a medical provider portal on the back end, as well as a patient portal. I can actually show you that as well. And so what it is that they'll be able to directly contact the clinics and have everything very organized here. So again, we're directing people directly to the medical clinics themselves, rather than having a third middleman in the middle, so that we can reduce any risks as well. So did that answer your question, or do you want any clarification?
Yeah, that answers my question on the user experience. I'm not sure if you've had any conversations with the medical clinics in general. What kind of, I know it's very early with the product not being out yet, but have you gotten any feedback from them on it?
Yes, I've talked to a ton of medical clinics, actually. So I have 20 ready to be onboarded at any given point in time when we're ready, that make up about 100 million in annual revenue. But the feedback amazingly has all been the same. Is, we have a problem with these unlicensed clinics. They're ruining our reputation. What you're doing is exactly what we've been saying is needed in the market, and you're going to be highly successful. Those are the three comments that I generally get. Is anytime I show somebody, at least the front end design of things, they understand what we're trying to do here.
Great. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shireen. Actually,
Yeah.
time is up. But feel free to reach out to Shireen to learn more about it. Thank you, Shireen.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next company is Mental Future. Tihomir, CEO of the company, will present the opportunity. Tihomir, feel free to
Hi
share.
guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Tihomir, I'm the CEO of Mental Future. So let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, so, sorry about that. So let's begin. So Mental Future, our main mission statement is basically to improve people's mental health by developing innovative science-backed therapies for common psychological and psychosomatic problems by combining CBT and hypnotherapy. So what is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy? It's a psychotherapy approach which transforms negative thoughts and behaviors and thus enhances mood and well-being. Hypnotherapy, on the other hand, is a technique using hypnosis, which accesses the subconscious mind and leverages the mind's suggestibility for positive change. So both CBT and hypnotherapy have been proven effective in prolific scientific journals by researchers at top universities. So let's talk about the main challenges that people seeking traditional therapy might face. First is easy access to trained therapists in their immediate area. Costs of these therapy sessions might be too expensive for some people. People have often busy schedules, and they also need a solution for sudden bouts of stress. And also there is the other point of anonymity. So mental health is still a stigma, as you might probably know. So an app actually is an answer to all of these issues. And while we're on the topic of mobile mental health apps, currently, as of 2022, the global market for mental health apps was valued at 5.2 billion USD and is projected to rise with a compounded annual growth rate of 15.9% between 2023 and 2030. So what is Mental Future exactly? It's an app which uniquely combines the potent effects of CBT, mindfulness, and hypnotherapy, and thus offers a comprehensive toolkit to tackle mental health challenges. So in the app, you will find 5 to 20-minute sessions of CBT, mindfulness, and hypnotherapy, relaxing sound therapy, as well as tailored programs of monthly and annual recurring content. So this is a snapshot of the user experience. Users go through a quiz defining their target goals. Their answers are analyzed, a personal plan is prepared, they choose a subscription option, and then they can enter the member area, which basically contains their personal plan, but they are free to explore all the content that the app offers in our other sections. Also, there is some comprehensive progress tracking, which they have access to in their profile, and some gamification elements. So to effectively market Mental Future, we have built a proprietary marketing toolkit, which helps us effectively analyze user engagement, drive revenue, and optimize the sales funnel. So Mental Future is a subscription-based app using the freemium model. Our target audience covers people who have any of the following problems: anxiety and panic, depression, sleep issues, ADHD, breakup, binge eating, procrastination. We have noticed that many major players offer poor content or poor experience, and thus our main goal is to become the ultimate all-in-one digital toolkit of mental health resources. Since launching Mental Future, we have managed to optimize the onboarding funnel, find high traffic converting categories, and optimize our overall results. We also won a silver award in the Fall 2023 Digital Health Awards for web-based digital health in the interactive content rich media category. So our key team members are people with extensive experience in digital advertising and digital products overall. And we are raising for this first round 500,000 euro to fuel our growth, which will be split between product development and advertising. And in 3 years, we aim to achieve more than 2,000 paying subscribers, reach 2 million ARR, open to additional markets in different languages, and finalize all of the development roadmap items to become the ultimate all-in-one digital mental health toolkit. So that was all. Thank you for the attention.
Thanks so much, Piomi. Great presentation. Vincent, would you like to start your comment?
Yes, so thanks so much for this presentation. I've got several questions, but maybe one or two. In mental health, some companies use VR headsets, sensors, and you decided not to use this kind of device that could definitely help patients improve their mental states, and especially maybe on the hypnosis side, VR could be a great tool. So did you on purpose avoid these tools, or is it in your roadmap, in your product roadmap?
So
yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of VR, obviously it's a new tech and it's very interesting. Also, it needs to be further researched. Its effectiveness, of course. Currently, however, it's not very widespread, and use cases could be for a very, let's say, select audience. What we aim is to gain a bigger share of the market, gain traction, and which will, of course, open possibilities for further research and further development in new innovative technology implementation, especially once they become even more widespread.
And in terms of adherence, do you have because you put a retention rate after day one, sorry, but what's happening after like 12 weeks or something like that?
It's different for different cohorts, but what I've seen is that users who become binded to the app and use it, you could use it potentially for 2 to 3 months even. I have users from my earliest cohorts which are every day logging in and using the app. So I think it's still too early to give you a definitive answer since statistics are too low, but I can assure you that users who become who are active for a few days become regular users.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Vincent. Arndt, any question from your side?
Yes, thank you. Is my understanding right that you are purely direct to consumer in your approach and you're not going down any regulatory pathway?
Yes, we are direct to consumer, exactly.
So I think there are tons of apps you can find, and so I'm really struggling how you want to differentiate in this market, since I think there's if you go into the app store, you get overloaded with these kind of apps.
Yes.
So,
exactly. Well, the way that we want to differentiate ourselves is first, as I told, we are combining CBT and hypnotherapy. I haven't seen another app doing it in this way. And the other way that we want to differentiate ourselves is, as I said, we want to offer the best content, best quality, and also be the all-in-one solution. As I said previously, you can find tons of similar apps, but they have a lot of gaps of content and functionality. So they offer really surface level or bad quality content, which we aim to improve.
Yeah, thank you, Arndt. Estia, anything from your side?
Syria.
Thank you for the presentation. Just to understand, so Vincent asked around the D1 retention and then moving forward, I'd like to push a little bit on that because it feels like that's a really important piece of that. So maybe if you're understanding the cohorts are a little bit edgy at the moment, are they kind of below 5% for 3 months? And where would you like that to get to over time? And if I can sneak in another one, kind of linked to what Arndt mentioned around competition, would love to hear you talk about how you view your cost structure changing over time. Where would you like marketing to get to, especially given that quite a few of the larger players in the space are struggling around that profitability point. So would love to hear you talk about that journey from early stage to skilled player around marketing, please. Thank you.
Okay, so regarding your question about retention, in 2 to 3 months, as I said, I cannot give you a direct answer because of the cohorts, but an approximate answer that I can give you is that maybe 10 to 15% of the users return. So how we are aiming to improve that, of course, is through different funnels and flows that we are integrating into our app to boost user retention and re-engagement. The other question that you had in terms of differentiating ourselves, I believe it was, again, in profitability. So the way that we are thinking about it and the way that we want to do it is basically by gathering as much data, testing different categories, analyzing the cohorts, and seeing which bring the best value for money. So obviously, currently, big players are overbidding the market. Acquisition costs can be expensive, but we can find niches which are profitable and still not, let's say, overblown, which offer a positive ROI.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Estia. Niels, maybe not a question, but do you have any feedback about it? Because we have just less than a minute.
I think most of the questions have been answered. Thank you for the presentation. Feedback from my side would be the same, that it's a highly competitive market, so very difficult to get in. If a very quick question to put that 30% day one retention, does that mean these 30% of users pay, or are they free users?
No, not everybody pays. The 30% day one retention means that they return even on day one, like
Okay.
they reopen the app. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much for the great presentation, Theomir. Thank you for the advisors. Great question. Thank you. And the next company is Remedly. Alexander, CTO of the company, will do the presentation. Alex, tell you to share your screen and go ahead. Alex, can you hear me?
One second, it's I just closed the, okay. Let me share. Can you share my screen?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I found it. Okay, sharing my screen. Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
Can you share my screen, please, if you can?
Should I share screen for you? You said?
Yes.
Okay, let me see. Okay, let's do that.
Do you see my screen now?
No, not yet. Not let me share for you. Okay.
I mean, do you see my screen now?
I just shared for you. Do you see my screen, or are you comfortable presenting like that? Or if you have any trouble, we can pass to the next presenter. And
no, I mean, I'm fine as long as you see my screen, I'm fine.
I mean, I share the screen for you right now. Do you see it, or?
1 second. I don't know what happens here. Yes, thank you. I believe you see my screen. 1 second, I will. From the beginning. Okay, so my name is Alexander Alishoev, and I am co-founder of Remedly. This is not my first startup. I have several startups and successful exits before. I'm also an investor myself. I am a member of the Angel forums, Karetsu forums, and a couple of other investment organizations in the area. But here I am now presenting for Remedly. Remedly is a health tech software company. We make EHR, RCM, and other applications which are a must to have in order to run medical practices day to day. Remedly was founded in San Francisco, where Series A, this year revenue would be around 1.1 million, and currently our venture round we're raising 1 million, 350 is committed, some of already collected, and we use it in form of safe notes with 10 million valuation cap, but we are flexible if there are some other way of financing, we can discuss that. So what problems we are solving? Currently, medical practices, in order to run their day-to-day operations, they're using 6 or more software which are not integrated, and their manual data transfer between them, and they cost a lot of problems, revenue loss, and some other errors and mistakes. How Remedly is solving that? We provide 6 integrated modules which built with this microservice architecture, meaning that they can work integrated with each other or independent, and we cover all needs which medical practice needs to run their day-to-day operations. Because of it's a one vendor, all modules are integrated. It's no errors by transforming data. We automate repetitive tasks, increase collections rate, and so on, and make doctors' life much easier. Why now? Still, market is dominated by all desktop applications, which is very difficult for them to support the latest government specification, which is FHIR. It's a new standard for electronic health data exchange and manipulation. Also, government recommend and require that companies who made software get CERT certification, and desktop solutions, which is difficult to get it. Total addressable market. So historically, we were selling to plastic and cosmetic surgeon, which is a 100 million market. Recently, we introduced the new platform and start selling to mental health, and big module which we also built, it's RCM, revenue cycle managing or billing. And currently our addressable market is about 900 million. And later this next year, when we get certification with CERT, we will be able to sell to pretty much all United States doctors, making different verticals, which is 9 billion market. We definitely have a lot of competition. This is like partial list of them, but we are successfully competing based off easy customization, value, ease of use, and some other good features which we have. Our revenue model, we have a software as a service subscription. We integrate it with several merchant processes, and we get the rev share from them. Plus, for billing, we charge for processing claims in 2 versions, either percentage or by number of claims, depends on the different ways people use our RCM applications. Our revenue, there are 2 kind of versions. We are more or less break even now. I said more or less because we still have some equity compensation. So we can continue moving forward without any additional financing, but definitely it would be slower growth. So that's pretty much estimate how we can do without funding, with funding, or without funding. And go-to-market strategy, we use both inbound and outbound leads, using Capterra, using Software Advice, G2, and for outbound leads, Zoom Info, Link, and some other tools. Exit strategy. There are 2 types of kind of companies who might be interested, and actually we had attraction from both of these types. First, it's our competitors who have old, outdated software, and instead of building their own, can acquire us and use our software to move forward. And also pure financial players who can acquire us, invest more in parallel different vertical medical development, and later on resell the company with high value. We have experienced team which...
Alex, actually, I have to interrupt you there. We already passed the 5 minutes. So
okay.
Let's get the
Sorry, I'm pretty much finished. That's our team. And thank you very much. This is our contact information.
Thank you so much. Okay. We will share the contact details after the conference. Don't worry about it. Okay, then. Ada, would you like to start? Do you have any question?
Yeah, in terms of value for Remedly and its competitors, and portraying it to the clinics or the hospitals you're working with, first question, what typically what size of hospitals are you working with, or pediatrics, or health clinic areas? What's your primary demographic that you're going for?
It's small and mid-sized companies. The maximum we have, I believe, about up to 10 physicians or providers in the medical practice.
Okay, and another question is the main value just organization of software and software used in the hospitals? Is there any sort of metric you can focus on that really portrays that value?
Actually, the biggest differentiator is easy customization. Our software, when we get like intakes form, consent forms, or even EHR, when during the encounter, it is encounter forms. The difference between different medical verticals, it's pretty much different content and workflow which physicians and providers use during the encounter. And our software built on the all UI is not hard-coded. It built on the configuration templates, which on all these configuration templates are editable through UI. So between verticals and even inside one vertical, each physician or provider would like to have their own way of doing things. And we don't need to put our developers to recode all this UI. It's just a matter of configuration. That is the biggest differentiator. It's probably similar if you build website, you can hard code pages or use like Drupal or WordPress, that it's easy customizable. In our case, it's much more difficult because each form requires collection of data. Some of them it's a FHIR data, but FHIR does not have all, let's say, historical data others. So it's much more complex stuff, but we fortunately kind of spent a lot of time, but fortunately not we spent a lot of time, but we achieved that we made it possible through UI that to change UI very quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ada. Niels, do you have any question?
Yeah, so I don't know the US market in this space, but I've worked quite a bit in this space in Germany. And my understanding is that you want to replace the PMS, right? So the entire practice management software. With that, two questions. So one, is it really that easy to get the regulatory approval? And the second question, I see, at least here in Germany, we have two incumbents in the market that have terrible software, but they are so powerful because the cost of switching for a doctor is so high, and doctors just have no interest to switch anymore and retrain their team, especially because I mean, a lot of doctors are rather old and don't have too many years left. So how would you tackle that, and how would you see your customer acquisition cost increasing or changing once you have certification and go beyond plastic surgeons into the wider doctor physician population?
Actually, thank you for the question. We're already selling successfully in the mental health. It's like the least demanding area. And I mean, the index of satisfaction in the United States from 100 to -100, it's -50. This is show kind of unhappiness of a lot of physicians with software. Absolutely the most challenging thing, because if somebody would like to move to another software, it's moving their old data with patients. And we created some special tools and which in certain software, even without going to the database through some kind of UI calls, we can export data from their existing software and import them. I cannot say seamlessly, but it will take several weeks, but we're successfully doing that. That's the most kind of challenging thing. It's to move the data. Definitely UI is different. Some learning curve, but again, we are pretty much successfully doing that. And like Nextech and some other old software, people are leaving and moving, looking for something new and better. But it's kind of course, it's a challenge. And if people have like a couple of years before retirement, unlikely they do that. But if it's a younger generation who like go and acquire what's like recently happened, some new guys acquire new business from people who are retiring. They were not happy with software. They start looking and actually sign with us. So, I mean, it's a kind of no miracles. Of course, again, it's challenging, but we were successfully with all the mapping tools which we created. It's relatively straightforward to do that. And again, we mostly address United States market. We have couple of several customers from Canada and one from Holland, but it's designed for United States market because we have integration with all pharmacies in United States, with labs, and also insurance billing. It's very specific per country. Like in Canada, it's completely different story, and we focusing now on United States market, but later on we definitely would like to move to different countries, but it's additional investment from our side.
Okay, thanks so much, Alex, for the answers. It's time is actually up. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the next company. It's Precision Cardiovascular. After that, we have just one more presenters, then we will finish. So, Mohammed, are you there?
I am indeed. Good evening.
Okay.
Shall I share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. Good evening. I wanted to start today with something of a thought-provoking question. Have you ever thought about the anxiety and stress experienced by heart failure patients, knowing that each day could bring yet another life-threatening episode? It's crucial knowing that about 2 to 3% of people globally are affected by heart failure, and around 1 million in the US alone suffer from the advanced version of it, known as AHF. 1 million people is enough to fill Madison Square Gardens about 51 times, I estimate, and there'd still be a queue outside. So now imagine a world where we could revolutionize the remote care of advanced heart failure. Welcome to Precision Cardiovascular. I'm Mohammed Abu Alam, CEO of Precision, and I'm here to introduce you to our groundbreaking solution. So our mission is clear: to enable personalized medicine for advanced heart failure patients. It's a poorly managed silent epidemic with about 3% of the global population affected, and it has a staggering 50% mortality rate within 5 years. The economic burden is immense, 44 billion US figures annually, and current approaches fall far short of clinical requirements. And that's where Precision steps in. Our solution is better data. And this is what we have. Our system, the Continuous Cardiac Care, CCC for short, is the first and only data-centric remote monitoring system. It monitors pulmonary arterial pressure, so between the lung and heart, and activity 24/7. It personalizes treatments and it protects patients in the course of action. And this is supported by robust data. I've kept some of the footnotes to the peer-reviewed literature over the years. Now, the CCC system is implanted using a simple procedure, and the monitored data is collected using a wearable reader and transmitted unobtrusively in tailored clinical insights to cardiology clinics. As one of the chief heart failure consultants we work with often says, we don't need alerts. What we need is a system that complements our work and aids our decision-making. That's exactly what Continuous Cardiac Care, CCC, does. In case you're wondering, and this isn't on the slide, our key innovation is taking a technology that runs at scale in the automotive industry and translating that to the human body. Now, economics is also very important, of course, and hospitalized heart patients are expensive. It's mainly driven by wrong and wrongly timed admissions and readmissions. Average cost over $13,000 in the US, $156,000 in the final 2 years of life. This is arrestable. Now, our unit economics are proven. We're at a total bill cost of less than $2,500 per patient at present. Even if priced at 6 times billed, we're half the established reimbursement rate for implantation. And that's besides the SaaS data opportunity where we can do far better than the 1,000 annual CP2 code prevailing. Competition. So we're uniquely positioned to support all of AHF patients, unlike competition, which is only 50% of them. Whether symptoms are present only during activity or at rest, Precision caters to the diverse nature of patients, needs of patients, and differentiates from existing solutions. In particular, new and emerging entrants are either building on the ill-fit existing technology or simply lack the data-ready infrastructure that Precision's built. Now, Precision not only has a strong product, but also robust monetization scenarios. So from fee-based systems where performance and coverage via wider reimbursement are the focus metrics, to value-based systems where dollar ICU burden dominates decision-making, we ensure both financial sustainability and positive patient impact, while engaging at the same time with some of the key medical device majors in the course of going to market. Now, behind Precision is a world-class team with a proven track record. So from clinical directors to research pioneers and seasoned advisors, we have the expertise to bring this revolutionary product to market at this stage. I'm an ex-VC myself and was a Samsung corporate executive for nearly a decade before that. So I bring a mixture of venture and consumer electronics. Very well complemented by Sabina, our CFO, who's got multi-stage experience of high-growth medtech ventures. We also have Professor Mehdi Yacoub, I would mention, who's a household name beyond medicine going back to the original heart transplant. And we're actually based at the Mehdi Yacoub Institute. That's our registered address. I point out Greenleaf Health, who are the original regulatory consultant who led CardioMEMS, the competitor device, to FDA approval, and 2 days later were acquired for almost $500 million by St. Jude. It was different times back in 2016, huh? Anyway, as we move forward, we've licensed long-term patents, developed prototypes, established suppliers, and built a world-class organization ready to deliver. We have a 3-phase plan to enter the US in mid-2027. This is a Class 3 medical device on PMA. We will follow the fast-track regulatory path that was set out by CardioMEMS previously, and we have key milestones to deliver and already achieved. Our raise is $2 million. It's already 50% committed entirely by private investors, including the founder of Africa's largest unicorn. But we're also open to redesign of the round terms to include first in human, if that fits better with an institutional mandate. So Precision Cardiovascular is offering an immediate opportunity to invest in a patented system with a fast-track plan to commercialization in an untapped market. Potential is vast, the team is incredible, and I really believe the impact is truly global. For more information or to join us on the journey, I'd be happy to exchange with you. I'm available to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thanks so much, Mohammed. Arndt, do you have any question?
Yep. Yes. Thank you, Mohammed. I was really trying to understand when just looking at the pictures. So what is different to the CardioMEMS and to the Endotronix device? So when just looking at the device, it looks pretty much similar. And is there a critical IP you have which protects you that those two, in particular CardioMEMS, cannot just come with the next generation device, which is just the same than you have?
Thank you. Great question, Arndt. So indeed, it looks similar, and it has to look similar because we'll be deploying on the same site using the same characteristics. So physical characteristics looking good is actually a good thing. All we're trying to do is miniaturize the antennas. But what's inside that sensor, that's what's different. 60% lower power. 60x lower power, I'm sorry. That means that we're a wearable solution. We're not mains operated. As a patient, you don't need to lie on your back on a comfortable pillow and take a measurement once a day. So better patient acceptance. It's also a case of physicians being able to get 24-hourly readings a day rather than once a day. It's also possible to get activity data. That patch that you see in the middle, it incorporates an accelerometer, so it correlates with activity, not what CardioMEMS has. So it's different technology. It's surface acoustic wave technology, dramatically different from capacitive MEMS, which is what Endotronix and CardioMEMS use. Vectorious, it uses a different technology, but it goes directly into the heart, into the left atrium, so it raises greater risk there. In terms of IP defensibility, yes, we have global patents for SAW technology and clinical applications up to 2035. Hope I've answered you.
Yeah, thank you, Arndt. Thank you, Mohammed. Estia, what do you think? Do you have any question?
Super, thank you, Mohammed. Pretty simple one from me, but would love to hear your thoughts on whether you see yourself as, like, whether you see your core IP in the long run as the data collection or the modeling and the flagging system. Like, how do you view that evolving over time?
Fantastic question. Thank you, Estia. So essentially, I believe to start with, we're building an infrastructure that enables data. So it's really important to have that core patent portfolio defended across the globe for sole patents. There are many sole players in the world. It's a niche space. Everyone knows each other, but clinical applicability is where we've innovated. So that's the base nuts and bolts infrastructure. Beyond that, if you speak with any clinician, it's all about the data. They say, you know, data comes in, we actually don't want it. We don't want it because in some jurisdictions, it places legal liability on us. So building the right type of data platform, engaging with big players like Huma and Cardio Diagnostics and others, and ensuring that we remain custodians of our data throughout so that later on we can retract if we wish to go solo. That is key to developing a data strategy. And we're indeed engaging not with patent attorneys alone, but with patent portfolio strategy attorneys who help you look ahead so that you can state claims and file them before engaging with prospective business partners, commercial partners, or clinicians for disclosures. So we're planning ahead for our data patent strategy as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Estia. Niels, do you have any question?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. So just to the competition again, how does your unit compare in terms of pricing to the competitors? And how do you plan to prove that you have better outcomes?
Okay, thank you, Niels. So the middle column is where you see our build. So the $1,000 and $1,500 adding up to $2,500. That's thanks to grant money spent in the past that enabled us to get a very resilient supply chain building on consumer electronics partners. So at $2,500, we know that's about 6 times lower than the transfer cost that CardioMEMS has to hospitals. We know this from inside the industry. We know this from quotes given in journals in different jurisdictions as to how much the transfer cost is. So we do know that there's a tremendous gap in that area. Hope I've answered that part. Forgive me, the second part of your question was on demonstrating results and proven outcomes?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So the benefit here is not just around cost, and it's not just around adding more data and triaging it. It's actually a far more accurate process as well. So unbeknownst to many, even those familiar with CardioMEMS, is that it suffers drift. So imagine if you're a 55-year-old, have an implantation, and about 5 years later, it needs to be taken out and reinserted, redeployed. That's the case with that technology. It's the case with Endotronics as well. It's not the case with Victorious, but it's a bit more problematic going into the heart. So drift is a key problem, and believe it or not, that is actually the way we are going to design our CPT code to be different for reimbursement. So one of the elements of building a CPT reimbursement code is calibration. If you do not need calibration, recalibration, which we don't, we can have a different CPT code. So payers and clinicians can actually tell their patients, enter this CPT code with Medicare and Medicaid, and they will actually choose precision for you, which is not just lower cost, but it's better results for us as well. So we expect some very significant staking of claims as a result of that. Hope I've helped.
Yeah, thank you, Niels. Thank you, Mohammed. Actually, we just have 30 seconds, something like that. Do you have any final words, Mohammed?
Well, thank you very much. I think, one of the key areas in medicine is that it's moving from identification of individual diseases to families of disease. So in that respect, and this is not just cardiology, it's everywhere, I think remote monitoring is really moving in step with the changes in medicine, because you're going to need to monitor individual baselines of patients rather than compare to population. So taking a look to the future, hopefully better for next generations. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mohammed, for a great presentation.
Pleasure.
And let's move to the final presentation. The company is Auctus Surgical. John Ashley, CEO of the company, will do the presentation. John, feel free to start your presentation.
Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. My name is John Ashley. I'm the CEO and founder of Auctus Surgical. We're solving the problem of children's scoliosis. This is a really challenging problem. Over 1 million children in the U.S. are diagnosed every year, and it's a progressive disease. 150,000 of them are prescribed external braces as a first line of therapy. These are uncomfortable and sightly, and a success with a brace is the spine's curve doesn't get any worse. They don't straighten the spine. They're a Band-Aid, not a solution. So many of these children move on to having fusions. Those are these x-rays where they get solid rods and screws put in. It locks the spine in place, prevents all movement, and limits their sports activities. It's not a solution, it's a sledgehammer. Now a new process called vertebral body tethering, or VBT, has come onto the market. That's this bottom image where a flexible cord is used to tension the spine. While this preserves the motion, or most of the motion of the spine, it doesn't give all the solutions that children, their parents, and surgeons are looking for, which is preserving the motion, allowing that spine to continue to grow, and allowing for non-invasive adjustments of the implant. That's where Auctus comes in. With our implant, we place one screw on each level of the convex curve of the spine and attach a very high tension, very durable tether to it. The bottom of the tether is spooled on a magnetic gearbox. That's this inset image. And from outside the patient, we'll be able to adjust the tension and the length of the tether, providing a personalized medicine solution to every child as they grow. We've done this in animal studies, as shown in these x-rays. And after implantation, we've come back at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks with the external controller, that's that blue and white handheld device, and adjusted the tension on these implants. Our system remained functional intact throughout, while these pigs doubled in size, and we proved that this product works. This is a very large market opportunity with 3 different places to go with it. The first is the beachhead market of the young children who are still growing, that are currently getting fusions. We add to that the young adults who avoided surgery as children until they were fully grown. They're also currently getting fusions. And then we can open up a new market, those children that are getting braces that don't solve their problems. All told, this is over a $10 billion opportunity worldwide. We already have patents in the US, Japan, China, and claims allowed in Europe, additional applications pending. We've also licensed other patents for pipeline products. This is a shifting market landscape where the gold standard of fusion is being supplanted by motion preservation. There's 2 companies on the market with static vertebral body tethering systems, ZimV and Globus. These can't be adjusted without surgery, and they have high rates of breakage and overcorrection, which do require additional surgeries. So in comparison to the gold standard in these new devices, we've got a product that can address the breakage and the non-adjustable and adjustability, and we can expand the patient pool with Auctus's product. We've got a strong relationship with the FDA, having done multiple pre-subs, defining the testing and the clinical pathway, and we've got breakthrough device designation, which expedites our reviews. It'll take 8 to 12 months off our timeline and our burn rate to approval. There's an existing CPT code for this with very high payments. Our cost of goods is low, creating a very high margin business. Other traction includes multiple spine surgeons who are investors and ongoing discussions with strategics, including Medtronic, NuVasive, and Stryker. We are also named the 2020 Best New Spine Technology of the Year by Orthopedics this week, and we've won numerous non-dilutive awards. All told, we've accomplished all this with only $600,000, including a $350,000 pre-seed round. We're currently raising a $3 million round to get to the clinic, at which time we'll raise $2 million to do our clinical study. We expect approval in 2027. These are the terms of the current round: 10% interest, a 20% discount, and a $9 million cap. And here's how we'll use the funds. We believe an exit is possible with FDA clearance. We've sold other companies in the orthopedic space when it's similarly an emergent market and we have the disruptive technology. All of these companies could be potential acquirers. We're a very experienced team with over 100 years combined in the medical device industry, multiple exits, including 2 IPOs. All told, we've returned over $1.25 billion to investors, and we've worked together before on innovative spine technologies. We've got great advisors in the spine world, including doctors who are co-founders of the company and help define the product and the clinical pathway. So in summary, why Auctus? We're a very experienced team in this space, and we've got one of the holy grails in spine surgery, which is a deformity correction system that is adjustable non-invasively. This is what children, their parents, and surgeons are looking for. We'd love you to join us in this mission to help these kids live the same normal life that their peers without scoliosis have the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you, John. Ada, what do you think? Do you have any question?
Yeah, just one question from my end. I have spoken to several spine surgery medtech solutions, and when it comes to placing these screws into the spine, I know there's a lot of there's a large rate of needing to readjust these screws. There are a lot of margin for error, especially when it comes to accuracy. Has this been taken into consideration with your technology, or is the flexibility in kind of what you provide with the solution help with that?
Yeah, so you're talking about the placement of screws in the posterior spine through the pedicles. That's an ongoing challenge. We're going from the side of the spine into the vertebral body, so the target is 10 times bigger. There's not a huge issue with problems in that placement. In fact, that gives us great purchase, and the screws don't end up being the problem. With the current products, it's the tethers that are breaking, and we've got a much better tether.
All right. Thank you.
Vera. Vincent, what do you think?
So yeah, thanks so much, John, for the presentation. Great presentation. Maybe so on the regulatory pathway. So you plan a FDA approval. Do you have any plans for Europe as well?
Yes, we do. We would expect to introduce the product in Europe probably within 6 months of getting the FDA clearance. We'll do our CE mark during that and be ready to launch about 6 months after the FDA clearance.
Yeah, thank you, Vincent. Estia?
Yeah, pretty simple one for me. Thank you for the presentation. Would love to hear your personal story. Why did you get into spinal adjustment? Would love to hear the motivation. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So one of my best friend's daughter had this problem, had to wear the brace, and ended up getting a fusion, and now she gets all compliments on her posture, which she has no control over because her back's totally rigid. But her soccer, her dancing, everything ended after that. And this particular approach was really driven by the surgeons. We went out to the surgical community with a different product that had been developed at UCSF, asking them for their input. And their input was that they wanted this flexible tether option. And so we sat down with them, designed the product, filed the patents, and started the company based on their needs.
Thank you. Arndt?
Yeah, and a more technical question. So it's obviously amazing if you can do the adjustments without surgery. So I'm just wondering, so what kind of forces do you need? Is there a battery in it, or do you need to reload the engine which creates the force? So is this a lot of force you need to really make these small adjustments, even if they are very small? But there's a lot of very high tension on the
yes, yeah,
system.
There is. Absolutely. There is high tension here in the spine to be able to pull it straighter. We're doing this magnetically. We looked at a lot of different approaches, and we're doing it magnetically. So the engine has a magnet in it. There's no power source implanted, so there's never a need to access it and replenish it. And our handheld device has a very high field magnet. So we couple the external magnet with the internal, and then we're able to rotate the magnet internally, and the device on the outside can detect that the internal magnet is moving, and that's the mechanism for doing it. And there's a huge gear ratio in our implant, so that we're able to generate those high tensions, that high tension with many spins of the internal magnet. And I can get into more details in another call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arndt. Niels, what about you? Any question?
Yes, a very specific one with regard to the competition. Again, a few years ago, I evaluated a company called ApiFix that was bought by OrthoPediatrics that has, say, a minimally invasive adjustment procedure approach to this. I didn't see it in your in your competitive overview. And maybe just the question, how do you see the differentiation here? And is this minimally invasive adjustment that much worse than a non-invasive adjustment?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, there are plenty of other approaches to this problem, but what we've learned from our work in the area is that the medical community is moving away from the rods and the stiff implants to these tethers. So ApiFix is one rod that's adjustable, and then Ellipse Technology a few years before them got into the market and was acquired. And they used a magnetic, a non-invasive adjustment scheme. Neither of those products have performed very well after their acquisitions. And from our research, it's because the market's moving towards these more flexible approaches that, you know, a solid fusion reduces 100% of the spine's motion, but that, you know, the ApiFix approach or the growing rods or magnetic rods, they eliminate almost over 50%. The tethers allow 80–85% of the spine's motion. The other thing that we have with our approach with this non-invasive is that once the child's fully grown and their spine is stable, the surgeon can non-invasively release all tension. So then without an additional procedure, that patient will have 100% of their spine motion restored with a straightened spine. So that's the direction the market's going. And from what we've seen, that's why some of these other rods aren't doing as well.
So the implant stays in the patient?
Yes, any removal of an implant over time just introduces another risk for an infection and complication. So it's not standard in clinical practice to remove them. It's an elective procedure now to get the static tethers removed, but that's out of pocket.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Niels, and thanks so much for the presentation and the answer, John. This is it, actually. We came to the end. Oh, you were the last one, John.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so much, John. All right, then, before we close here, maybe just we can hear a final word from the advisors about the very short feedback. What do you think about Arndt? Did you enjoy your time? You are muted.
I'm muted, yeah. So. No, I think it was a quite diverse spectrum of companies, very different field. I really loved it, and some interesting approaches. I have to say, no, a good selection. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Arndt. Thanks so much for the contribution, Vincent.
Yes, so yeah, very large spectrum, very interesting as well. I really liked the last presentation. I think it's pretty much convincing. Of course, we need to deep dive into it a bit more, but yeah, there is a good differentiator here. And yeah, thanks for all the presenters. It was great session.
Thanks so much, Vincent. Estia.
Yes, thank you again for organizing. I'll totally agree on the spectrum. I think for me, the most helpful pieces in the presentations is when we talk about ROI and just understanding the go-to-market, the distribution, any economics around that. Appreciate it's early, but I just find that the most helpful from an early stage perspective. So thank you for including those stats.
Thank you. Thank you, Estia and Niels.
Yes, I agree. Thanks for all the presenters. It's always great to see entrepreneurs trying to better patient outcomes in whatever field they're working in. It's a pleasure to work with you guys and to see you do and pitch your projects. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Niels. Eda.
Yeah, I just want to apologize again for coming in a little late. I'll be sure to do some extra research on the first set of startups that presented, but I love the vast array. I love learning about more industries that I'm not particularly an expert in. And I love to hear more about just disruptive medtech in general as well, not just in efficiency of what you guys are doing, but just the way you go about it, what you do with your data, and how you approach a certain problem. But overall, great presentation from everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ada. And no worries about the delay. It happens. So thank you, everyone, for who is staying with us until the end, all the presenters, advisors, and all the investor in the audience. We will have new events in the next year. Hope to see all of you here with us again. Thanks so much, and have a good evening or have a good afternoon wherever you live. Thank you.
Thank you.